It's Pride Month, Henry. You know what that means. Huh? What? Do you want us to make, like, Gay Freddy? What?
Hello, my little rats, and welcome, he says. In the middle of the month, this will probably go out near the end, Jesus. Welcome to June! Happy Pride Month, everyone. As a bisexual myself, I enjoy having a full month dedicated to me, and just me. Anyway, for this most sacred month of Pride and June, I thought I'd do something a little special. I'm going to definitely, totally, 100% prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that every major human character in FNAF is gay, or another part of the LGBTQ+ spectrum. First off, I'll only be including human characters who we know something about. Like, we don't know jack or shit about the DCI, or Oswald's mum, or Phone Dude, or even Bronwyn Light, so I can't really do anything with them. They, and others like them, will be excluded. Trust me, it's more than generous of me to include Cassie's dad and Oswald's dad as it is. Second off, I should probably give a basic rundown of every part of the LGBTQ+ community that I know of, for anyone who might not be familiar, just so we're all on the same page. But obviously anyone who is familiar can just kind of skip this part. Homosexuals, or gays, or lesbians in the case of women, are people who are sexually attracted to members of the same gender as them. Pretty well known at this point. Plurisexual is actually an umbrella term that encompasses a few different but incredibly similar sexualities. Bisexual can also be used as an umbrella term for this category of sexualities, which is a bit confusing since it's also part of that category. Mainly because the rest of them kind of spin off from bisexual anyway. Bisexuals, such as myself, are attracted to all genders. However, we may have a preference for one gender. That's very common. For instance, I have a preference for women. We may also have types. For instance, my type is more androgynous looking people with long or fluffy hair. Bonus points if they're short and or thin. Adding to this, I would say that gender is largely unimportant for bisexuals. Again, pulling from my own experience, I would say gender is not a consideration. I'm attracted to certain traits, such as softer features, or as I mentioned, hair, or nice thighs, and since those traits are more common on women, I have a preference for women. But if someone has all those traits and happens to have a penis, it seems silly to kick them out of bed over it. I don't know. I don't really to me, that's not really the part that matters. In fact, I'd say androgyny is a plus in my book. Polysexuals are basically the same as bisexuals, but with one key difference. Instead of being attracted to all genders, they're only attracted to some. More than one, less than 72, as there are 72 genders. The best way to describe the difference here is multiple, but not all. Pansexuals are also much like bisexuals, but also with one key difference. They have no standards. Okay, I'm just kidding. The way it was explained to me, and do understand that many people differ on the exact specific differences between the various plurisexualities, is that bisexuals have types and pansexuals don't. Both into every gender, but pansexuals won't have a preference for any given gender and won't favour any given body type. Every body is hot to a pansexual. Although that doesn't mean pansexuals literally think everyone is equally attractive, or even that everyone is attractive. They just aren't committed to any one trait or set of traits being hot. Two people could have completely opposite body types, and a pansexual could still find the both of them equally attractive, in theory. That's where you get the idea that pansexuals are attracted to personality. It's not 100% accurate, but personality will often be the deciding factor since looks matter way less because, well, again, any type of look could be attractive to a pansexual, is how it was explained to me when I asked Raito's comment section, because I couldn't find a decent explanation anywhere else. Again, not everyone agrees with that definition, but it's what I was told, and that's what I will be going with. Also, the main pansexual I'm aware of is Right Toast, and he definitely doesn't have standards. He thinks Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 is peak. Need I say more? Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 is a good game in the same way that I am a good person. It isn't. So yeah, pansexuals don't have types or preference for any given gender, and bisexuals do have types and preferences for any given gender. Omnisexuals are basically pansexuals, but in reverse. They still don't have a preference for any given gender, but instead they find each gender incredibly hot in its own right. Their attraction to people is based on their gender, but each gender is incredibly hot in its own way, if that makes sense. They might find different traits attractive on different genders as well. Unlike bisexuals, it's not looking for the same traits on every gender. Different gender, different desirable traits for omnisexuals. So like pansexuals, no gender is preferred, but unlike pansexuals who just don't notice gender, omnisexuals do notice gender, but regardless of what it is, they think it's super hot. They'll have types, but those types will differ for each gender, unlike bisexuals who have the same type for every gender. Or same types, I mean, it's not like you just have one type. Is how it was explained to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, I did literally only learn about polysexuals and omnisexuals this month, because of Right Host, and his comments explained the difference to me. Stepping out from the plurisexual umbrella, there's also asexuals, people who feel no sexual attraction or desire at all. Abrosexuals whose sexualities can actually change between any given point in time, in a similar way to gender fluid people, and demisexuals who specifically become attracted to people after they've known them romantically. Basically, they fall in love, then become sexually attracted, rather than, just finding people hot off the bat. All of these sexualities also have romantic equivalents, like aromantic, people who can't feel romantic attraction or desire at all, and that applies to all of the sexualities. There is a romantic equivalent, it's just most people don't often draw the distinction. You can mix and match sexualities and romance preferences, like a homo-romantic asexual, or a bisexual aromantic, or even a heterosexual homo-romantic is possible, though that is very rare. Moving to the trans side of the LGBTQ+ spectrum, trans is also an umbrella term for anyone who isn't cis. There's your regular run-of-the-mill trans people, trans men who are born physically female, but have a male gender identity, and trans women who are born physically male, but have a female gender identity. Then you have non-binary people, or NBs, which is another umbrella term. Remember how there's 72 genders? Well, 70 of them fall under this term, and I can't be asked to explain them all. Mainly because that would take us years, and especially since I don't know them all. Generally, if someone uses they, them, it, its, or neopronouns, then they're an NB. Pretty good rule of thumb. Furthermore, you have bigender people, who have multiple gender identities. For example, male and female, or NB and male, or NB and female, or one type of NB and a different type of NB. And then you have pangender people, who are every gender. All of them. All 72. Every last one. Pangender people will often describe their pronouns as any, or, so that's how you know. Assuming they don't just tell you they're pangender. Right Host is also pangender, which I'm only mentioning to congratulate him on the matching gender and sexuality. Pan and pan. Gotta give him credit, that's good synergy. Anyway, because pangenders are hogging all the genders, we also have their natural opposite, the yin to their yang. Or yang, sorry. Agender people. These people have no gender, presumably because the pangenders stole it. They also go by they, them, or it, its, or neopronouns, but in a different way from the other 66 genders that do that, I guess. I don't know, some NBs are more about being a third or fourth or 56th gender, whereas agenders just don't fuck with that at all. I wish I could explain the difference in experiences between the two better, but I literally can't. It's not for lack of trying, though. Anyway, forget all those losers, because now we get to talk about my favourite gender identity. Gender fluid people. Are they just my favourite gender identity because of Alex Fierro from Magnus Trace? Mostly. I read those books at 12, and Alex was the best character. This goes to show how important good representation actually is. Gender fluidity is literally my favourite gender identity purely because of one character from a book I read when I was 12. However, it's also because it's just so whimsical. Gender fluid people's gender can change whenever at random, but that's just so fun. They could be male one day, female the next day, pangender the week after, agender the day after, and then back to male the next month. That's just so fun. I love how it adds a bit of random chance, it mixes things up, it's just so based. It's like gambling, but without all the bad parts of gambling. You shouldn't play favorites with the LGBTQ plus community and, trans people and all that. You shouldn't play favorites. We shouldn't be at each other's throats, of course. But gender fluidity is my favorite, and I'm not even gender fluid. I'm cis. But it's still my favorite. And not like my favorite of trans people. I'm including when I say my favorite of all the genders, I'm including cis people in that. My favorite gender identity isn't even my gender identity. That's pretty funny. Anyway, I'm sure I missed some sexualities or genders. There's a lot of them, and I apologize to anyone whose sexuality or gender was missed. Please, honestly, share them in the comments, because I genuinely love to learn about them. Anyway, now you know about as much about the LGBTQ plus community as I do, so without further ado, let's finally start proving that every major human character in Five Nights at Freddy's is gay, or another part of the LGBTQ plus spectrum. Let's start with the big man himself, William Vincent Afton.
Wouldn't it be so crazy if my characters were married? It's perfect.
He's arguably one of the easiest characters on this list because of the books. In the books, William has an incredibly gay obsession with Henry, like, oh my god, do take a cold shower already. He flips back and forth between incredible jealousy and hatred of Henry's incredible technological abilities, and adoration and damn near worship of those same abilities. He writes those feelings in journals, by the way. This is not a normal amount of obsession for a straight man to have about another man. In fact, it just screams of William having suppressed his gay desires for so long that they've warped and gotten far out of his control. Remember, it was the 80s, and you're going to be hearing that quite a bit because this entire video does more or less hinge on the fact that this franchise takes place in the 80s. Bro probably had a lot of self-hatred issues about being gay, if we're being real, which probably fueled his hatred of Henry. But that's the books. What about the games? Well, in Help Wanted 2, we have the FNAF 3 Phaser Blast level, where you face off against Springtrap. When you defeat him, he unleashes a scream. This is, apparently, I'm not very good at telling these things myself, a woman's scream. It's also the same scream Glitchtrap uses when he's defeated in Princess Quest 3. Since Glitchtrap is mimicking Afton, this shows that Glitchtrap associates William with a woman's scream. This got me thinking William might be trans. For one, Springtrap is already associated with Mpreg thanks to In the Flesh and in the epilogues of Frights. We literally see Eleanor get birth from the chest of the man in room 1280, William. With Eleanor's pretty clear ties to Elizabeth Afton, visually at least, this could imply William birthed Elizabeth. Furthermore, with Eleanor seemingly being the agony of the man in room 1280, perhaps Eleanor is mainly comprised of the agony caused by William's gender dysphoria, and also probably his self-hatred. It was the 80s. Hence, why her whole thing is shape-shifting, and her introductory story is all about punishing a girl for wanting to be more conventionally attractive in order to take her place. This would also explain why Bonnie looks so feminine in many of his iterations. Once again, in the books, it's shown that William so deeply feels that he is Spring Bonnie that he'll refuse to talk about the head-on sometimes. Spring Bonnie isn't his favourite child or a role he loves playing, Spring Bonnie is William Afton. So why so feminine? Well, if William was trans, then it would make sense. By putting these feminine traits on a male animatronic, he can associate them with men and make himself feel better about having them.
Damn, William. Your animatronics are GNC as fuck. Good.
Also, probably self-hatred. Again, he has kids in the 80s, though he was probably born in the mid-1900s at the latest. He probably has a lot of internalized transphobia and resents himself for not just being happy with the body he was given. So putting feminine traits on Spring Bonnie could also be a way to effectively psychologically torture himself. That is a possibility. Also, I'd bet money that if William is trans, then Bonnie Afton is absolutely his dead name. By giving a male kids mascot the name Bonnie, which is a pretty exclusively feminine name, like as far as I can tell, he effectively encourages them to see it as a masculine name. Once more, he is reclaiming that part of his identity and making his peace with it in a way. Plus, you know, what kind of cis man would use such a feminine-looking character to represent themselves? I mean, clearly you'd have to be in the closet to do that. Hey, wait a minute. Also, Springtrap. In anime, a trap is literally a man that looks like a woman. Your Honor, I rest my case.
He's Glitch Trap. You're Scrap Trap. I'm Spring Trap. We're not all the same, mate. Is there anyone else named Trap I should know about?
Hey?
No, fuck off!
Or I would, if it was that simple, but it isn't. While I would still say William was probably born female for reasons I'll go into later, I don't think it's as simple as him being your average run-of-the-mill trans gentleman. No. It's something deeper than that. Looking at FNAF World, there's always been a character description that just doesn't make sense to me. Male? Female? It's a rabbit, who cares? On the surface, this seems like it would make sense. The fandom has definitely gotten into arguments about the genders of certain characters, and Toy Bonnie is a pretty perfect example of this. So of course this is Toy Bonnie's Spring Bonnie? But nobody ever thought Spring Bonnie was a girl. He didn't even have feminine features until FNAF World, and because of Springtrap being William, nobody thought Spring Bonnie was anything other than a guy. Why this version of Bonnie when Toy Bonnie would make so much more sense? And it's not like Toy Bonnie's description is particularly interesting either, so, like, he could have had this description. But hell, why is it a Bonnie at all when Mangle is the obvious candidate? You know, assuming you change Rabbit to Fox, obviously. But then it hit me. What if this isn't a meta joke, at least not entirely? What if this is how William feels about Spring Bonnie, aka himself? Male, female, I'm a rabbit, who cares? That's right, William Afton is bi-gender. Now I hear you asking, why is he bi-gender and not pangender or even agender? And that's because of FNAF 6. In Security Puppet, we get the song Alchemist's Fantasy in relation to Charlie's death. Regardless of what this means for such meaningless nonsense as William's motivation and end goal and all that other worthless shit, it also tells us one actually important piece of information, that he's definitely bi-gender. Now, alchemy is a big subject, but all you need to worry your pretty little head about is that alchemists wanted to gain the power of the Christian God, and immortality and wealth, and to do this, they had to create the magnum opus, usually the Philosopher's Stone, not always, but usually, and upon doing so, they would achieve their ultimate goal of controlling the energy of Azoth. Azoth is basically God, but instead of being a person, it's just an energy that exists in the world and can be harnessed. However, in alchemy, there are masculine powers and feminine powers, which can only be harnessed by their respective sex, and to become truly all-powerful, you need to be able to control both. To achieve this, it was thought that upon creating the magnum opus that the individual would undergo a transformation into the rebus, otherwise known, and this is their words not mine, as the Holy Hermaphrodite, a being that is both male and female and therefore capable of controlling both the feminine and masculine powers and effectively becoming God. So, any intersex people watching this? Get learning alchemy because you are 90% of the way to being God. In other words, the ultimate goal of an alchemist is to become simultaneously male and female. Since William is an alchemist, yeah, he's bi-gender. He literally wants to be both genders at the same time. Like, I don't think it could get more explicit than that. Though I still think he was born female and got at least top surgery and some testosterone before moving from Britain to America, so nobody would know he was originally a woman. Given William's personality, it really wouldn't shock me if he chose to present masculinely and then move to America in order to benefit from male privilege, while also not suffering any transphobia, because no one knows he was originally a woman. That just seems like the William thing to do. To see sexism in the world and go, I can benefit from this, actually. Furthermore, in Into the Pit, we see the Yellow Rabbit has William's consciousness in his voice lines and his reaction to the photo of Henry, his past lover, no wonder the strong reaction, and William.
Let's have some fun. Don't make things horrible for us. Even if I don't get some more, I always come back. I need you second to stay down. I'll make good use of you. There's no point in hiding. You'll fit right in with the others.
So, Eleanor is William's agony, but so is the Yellow Rabbit. And Eleanor only takes female forms when she shapeshifts, and the Yellow Rabbit only takes male forms when he shapeshifts. I wonder what that could mean. Eleanor is his female side's agony, and the Yellow Rabbit is his male side's agony. I wonder if purple being a fusion of red and blue could represent his dual nature. Either way, congratulations William Afton on being bi-gender. Purple guy, purple gal, who cares, it's a rabbit. Okay, so William is bi-gender, but who is the father of his kids? Henry. I mean, it makes sense. Why else would William kill Charlie? He brought her into this world, and by God, can he take her out of it? More seriously, it matches up with how William thinks. In Return to the Pit, we see the Yellow Rabbit, which has his consciousness as previously established, give Oswald rabbit ears that brainwash him. It's a whole thing. The part to focus on is once Oswald is brainwashed, the Yellow Rabbit is happy. This, I think, illustrates how William's love for his children works. And yes, I do say love, and I do mean it the same way you mean it. He loves his children like you might love a car, or a phone, or a cube of pure tungsten. You care for that object, you adore that object, you're happy with that object. You love that object very much, and you wouldn't want it to break, and if it did, you'd try to put it back together. But if it suddenly stopped doing what it was meant to, you'd throw it away and replace it. William's love for his children is the same. If they fall into line and do as he wants them to, if they follow orders, play their role, fulfill their purpose, then he loves them. Genuinely, he is happy. And it is love, but it's conditional love. If they stray from their purpose, stop following orders, stop filling a role, then they are nothing to him and must be recycled. Michael is the ultimate example of this. Once he killed Cece, he was no longer a viable child for William to love, so into the nightmare chambers he goes. And, Cece being, this kind of wet blanket of a little boy, was probably still pretty much on William's good side. He seemed pretty obedient, at least to the Fredbear plush. Knowing that William views his children as objects, Henry, perfect, amazing, skilled, handsome, godly, intelligent, brilliant, handsome, focused, determined, impressive, knowledgeable, handsome, Henry, taking Charlie, that's too much for him. It's theft. She belongs to him. He made her. And if you think Charlie being William's daughter is a stretch, it honestly really isn't. In fact, it's just true. Kind of. In the books, Elizabeth possesses an adult Charlie robot. So in this case, William's daughter was literally Charlie, or a robot recreation of her. And in the movies, Charlie possesses Vanessa. Charlie literally becomes William's daughter. Again. There's also the little girl on the bed on the FNAF 4 bed in the endo daycare. Could draw a connection between Cece and Charlie, or it could be saying Cece is a girl. Viewer's choice. My point is that Charlie and William's daughter becoming one and the same is a repeated motif throughout the books and movies. And I think it's telling us Charlie is his daughter. Henry is the dad, William birthed them. I assume there was a messy breakup, or maybe their relationship was on and off again, depending on how hard it was to keep a secret. Again, 80s. And that's why Charlie, and maybe Sammy, but nobody, not even Scott, cares about him, ended up with Henry. And the rest ended up with William. Hey, I guess FNAF 6 really was one big, happy family. But if we're saying there's no Mrs. Afton, what about Ballora? Isn't she supposed to represent Mrs. Afton? Not necessarily. The Funtimes clearly represent the Aftons. Cece is Funtime Freddy, Baby is Elizabeth, and Funtime Foxy is Mike. So what about Ballora and Mrs. Afton? Well, I think that Mrs. Afton is actually represented by Funtime Chica. In Secret of the Mimic, we see that Chica's Party World is owned by the company Chica's Restaurants, who commissioned MCM to make Chica. But riddle me this, Batman. Why would Chica's Restaurants be called that if Chica didn't exist yet? Also, why would it be called that at all? It's not a restaurant, it's a company. Why name it after a restaurant mascot? This is the name you're using in an official corporate setting. Well, I actually don't think they did name it after Chica the Chicken. I think Chica's Restaurants is telling us that Chica's Party World was owned by a human woman called Chica. Now we know eventually Chica's Party World becomes part of Fazbear, and I think it's because William and Chica the human got married. Sure, maybe William just screwed her over the same way he did MCM, but I actually think he just screwed her. I mean, wouldn't Edwin have seen William screw them over, or Chica the human have warned Edwin about William's practices since, they worked together? In Into the Pit, we see the Yellow Rabbit as Oswald's dad effortlessly make Oswald's mum laugh, so clearly William Afton canonically has Riz. Plus, I think Chica the Human designed the Mr. Cupcake and other Mr. Food items after a William Afton original character, the Golden Cupcake. In FNAF 3, there's an Easter egg showing a drawing of a rare golden cupcake where a poster normally is, clearly designed to match Spring Bonnie and Fredbear. And this character can't have existed after Chica's Party World became Fazbear property because we don't see it. It's not an MCM, even in the prototype pizzeria, despite there being regular Mr. Cupcakes and Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Or the room filled with Mr. Cupcakes, even the collectible is just a normal one. And we never see it in Fredbear's in FNAF 4, but it existed. And this isn't a mistake, because that same poster can also more commonly turn into a regular Mr. Cupcake drawing, and regular Mr. Cupcake can appear in the FNAF 3 office. This golden cupcake was intentional. It was an intentional inclusion. This is also the same game that adds the Shadow Cupcakes. Just like Golden Freddy, Shadow Freddy, and Normal Freddy, there is a Golden Mr. Cupcake, a Shadow Mr. Cupcake, and a Normal Mr. Cupcake. I am convinced that there was once a Golden Mr. Cupcake character, but William just eventually retired him. However, Chica the Human became inspired when she saw him in Fredbear's Family Diner and created a whole roster of Mr. Food items, with a slightly differently coloured cupcake so she couldn't be sued for copyright. This is why William and her would hit it off. She was starstruck, no doubt, and eventually marry, agreeing to fuse their companies together into one and make Chica the Chicken a Fazbear character. So Funtime Chica obviously represents Mrs. Afton, Chica the Human, and so who does Ballora represent? William. I mean, he's bigender, so he wouldn't mind representing himself using a female animatronic, and he did birth these kids, so he'd likely see himself as the mother figure. Plus, he probably has to only ever be masculine publicly, lest he cause a controversy. Again, 80s, take a shot every time I say that, so it's probably a nice outlet. Hence, Ballora being a motherly figure and having purple eyes. Eyes are the window to the soul, after all. Furthermore, the Springlock suit and sister location can really only be the puppet or a Minorina based on the face shape. Like, anything else, I mean, like, it could be a Chica with the beak removed, in fairness, but, you know, it's anything else just doesn't line up because it doesn't have a snout or anything of the kind. So, puppet, Minorina, or maybe a Chica with her beak off, but we've only ever seen that with Toy Chica. And given the jump scare for being spring-locked is a Minorina, and it's a Minorina themed night, I think this is Rena. So the Springlock suit is also likely a ballerina, like Ballora, and William would have presumably been wearing this Springlock suit if Circus Baby's Pizza World opened, in order to help distract adults, or lure children to either Baby or Funtime Freddy. So William would be a ballerina. Interesting. Maybe he was taught ballet as a little girl. Not to mention that Glitchtrap, which is mimicking William, does ballet. Again, William is associated with ballerinas like Ballora, because Ballora is his Funtime stand-in. Now, I hear you. What about Ballora's song?
All I see is an empty room. No more joy of an empty tomb. It's so good to sing all day, to dance, to spin, to fly away. All I do is dance alone. But now I hear your flesh and bone. I roam these halls alone all day. But now you're here, friend and prey.
And her being Clara's inverted colours. Take your pick. And the Ballora-looking robot as the Miss Afton stand-in on the Afton family table. Well, the answer is simple. She is possessed by Miss Afton. While it's true that the song was made by Ballora's voice actress, Scott still made it part of the game, and also the song was based on prompts given to the voice actress.
So, you just did a few lines for Scott. What was that about? Did he give you lines, or was it just a specific line you had to do and repeat?
Actually, in my case, it was having to write a song. And I think one of the reasons I got the audition in the first place was that in my bio, I have that I'm a songwriter, and he needed a song written for that particular character. So when I got the audition, I wrote the song on the spot and with the lines he provided, and that's probably what helped me get the gig.
Oh, so the why do you hide inside your wall? Inside.
Yeah.
I can't speak today. Why
That's
do
okay.
you hide inside these walls?
Yeah.
That one. You made
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, yes, the song is still definitely valid evidence. And I don't think it could apply to William because it feels a bit too mournful. Furthermore, it mentions an empty room, equating it to a tomb, perhaps indicating a dead child that William probably killed. Like, it could be William's feelings towards Henry, but that would feel out of character. I mean, William Afton, esteemed scummy businessman and child murderer extraordinaire, William Afton, making an incredibly mournful song about how he wishes that Henry would pay attention to him. Like, what are we talking about here, people? Be so for real.
Admit it. You wanted to let me in. Why do you hide inside these walls?
I think it is Mrs. Afton. Whatever happened to her would sure be nice if Scott would give her literally anything. I think it makes sense that her soul would see the mother figure in this faux Afton family and assume it was her role, and so she possesses that robot. Then Funtime Chica is made out of order, because the Miss Afton role is taken by Ballora. William would be a good sport about it though, he still has the Springlock suit, that can represent him, so it's all good. But wait, does this mean William was attracted to a woman? Maybe, and it actually wouldn't matter, he's bigender, so liking men and women would be gay for him regardless. It's possible he's bisexuals are purple after all. But William is also absolutely just strikes me as the type of person who would completely fake interest in somebody to get a leg up in life. He's still an evil piece of shit, even if he is bigender. However, I actually don't think that's what's happening here. William and Henry are both well-respected businessmen and children's entertainers, and this was the 80s. Yeah, they needed to cover the gay up so as to not ruin their business. Listen, their wives are beards, that's why they're so irrelevant to the story.
Father, why don't you have any photos of you and Mom? Michael, you know your mother and I don't have that sort of relationship. Okay.
That's why Clara, who's obviously a Miss Afton stand-in, is called Vlad's mistress, because she technically was. She wasn't his real love. And more than that, it's why William designed Funtime Chica to look so different from the rest, because he doesn't actually love her. He doesn't consider her part of his family. Further evidence by her not showing up in the Afton family poster. But who would be willing to help two gay, well-known businessmen cover up their relationship? Lesbians. That's who. Side note, I'm gonna call Miss Emily Trisha because of Secret of the Mimic.
Ed, I hope this message reaches you as soon as you get a break. I have to go help the Fall Fest crew, just for a few days until the installation is finished. It's hard to explain. I just have this terrible feeling like I need to be there so nothing goes wrong, just in case. Trisha will babysit David while I'm gone. I love you both, and I'll be back next week.
What kind of babysitter is watching your child 24/7 for a week or more straight? Plus, Edwin refers to David's babysitter as just your babysitter, who gets paid and goes home later in the game. So I think there is a distinction. Anyway, the point is, Trisha, Emily, and Chica Afton were lesbians, and Henry and William were gay, and they were all covering for each other. Or, you know, they're all bi and they were in a polycule. I mean, take your pick, honestly. So, William is bigender and gay, and Henry, Trisha, and Chica Afton are gay. Okay, that was the longest one. Now for the second longest and most evidence-backed one. And then the rest should be pretty rapid fire. Michael Afton.
Guys, I have something to confess. I murdered my little brother.
In the logbook, when asked to think about loved ones, Mike draws love hearts, so this could imply he has a special someone. But who is this special someone? Well, throughout the logbook, Mike draws himself as a Henry Stickmin-looking character who's bold. But when asked about his dream holiday, he draws someone not only in a completely different style and who looks completely different from those other drawings of himself, but also someone who doesn't look like he does in Sister Location. Like, different hairstyle, obviously, but also, this picture isn't coloured in, but I know this person is blonde. I can feel it in my bones. Except, if you look closely, you'll notice a second person with much more Michael-coded hair driving the jet ski. I think this is telling us that Mike's dream holiday is a holiday where he gets to treat the love of his life to their dream holiday. If they're happy, he's happy. It's honestly super cute. But wait, look at this person. Male clothes, complete lack of tits, masculine hairstyle, this is a man. Therefore, Michael Afton is absolutely, undeniably gay. Also, Henry says that he thinks Michael would want to stay in the FNAF 6 fire, but if he had someone waiting for him on the other side, which he clearly does, then I actually don't think he would. Just because you're suicidal because your yaoi was doomed doesn't mean Michael can't have wholesome yaoi, you selfish prick. Be nice to your son, he's been through a lot. Also, Michael probably isn't a walking corpse at this point. In FNAF 6, he can pass out from overheating, and in FNAF 3, he needs to breathe or he'll start hallucinating fake spring traps on the cameras. Someone without organs would not need to breathe, and someone who's dead would not need to worry about overheating. And I doubt it's the remnant melting. I don't think it's hot enough to melt like steel or tungsten or whatever the fuck these things are made of. So, yeah. We know Remnant can heal, so he's probably perfectly fine, even if he is technically dead and possessing his own dead but healed body. Also, I'm pretty sure he's Jeff of Jeff's Pizza. Like, he owns the land that used to be at Freddy Fazbear's. Even in the ending of Return to the Pit, where you stop the Yellow Rabbit and presumably save the MCI, and yet think Fazbear would be more successful in that timeline, he still owns the location. But this time it's better with arcade machines, as if Freddy's never closed and the arcade was never separated from the rest of the building for budget reasons. And, like, if Michael is Michael, son of the founder, then, like, he would have just inherited the land, so yeah, Jeff's could exist anyway. Jeff is also literally said to walk like a zombie in the original version of the Into the Pit story, and it's alluded to in Return to the Pit. And Jeff is left completely alone by the Yellow Rabbit. Even in the game Into the Pit, which for one implies that the Yellow Rabbit has attacked multiple children, and for two, where the Yellow Rabbit literally attacks you as you walk out of his office on the final night. But Jeff is fine. The Yellow Rabbit just leaves him alone, I guess. My thinking is it left him alone because he's already dead, or maybe William was giving Michael some mercy. Maybe there is some fatherly love still left in him. I doubt it, probably because he's already dead and wouldn't be much good for getting Remnant out of. Also, just side note, but here's one of my favourite Into the Pit details. On the final day, when you first enter the restaurant, there's a bald man sitting down. Then you go to Jeff and get attacked by the Yellow Rabbit. And the bald man, if you look closely, is gone, implying that the Yellow Rabbit had shapeshifted into the bald man to surprise attack you. It's just such good attention to detail. I love it so much. Into the Pit is such a damn good game. Since Into the Pit happens after FNAF 6, as clearly evidenced by trash from FNAF 6 being in the trash pile, Mike being Jeff would confirm he chose life with his athletic blonde husband. May they have a happy and long life together. However, there is something else to point out. In FNAF 4, as Foxy Bro, he might be trans.
We're in the closet, Michael.
Probably means nothing. Michael, I know you like Foxy, so I based this new design off you. What?
I mean, we see two brothers and in their house, 2 bedrooms. One very feminine, and the non-feminine one is just Cece's room, straight up. We assumed it must be a sister because we're all transphobic, sexist monsters, but it could be Foxy Bro's room. Now it's the 80s, so would a boy have a feminine room? Probably not. But if he's trans, then it would make sense. The room is feminine because he grew up as a girl, although he could be biologically male and his room is feminine because he's a trans woman, but as an adult he's still male and he doesn't draw himself in a way that seems feminine, so I think he's more likely to be a trans guy. Until coming out, and he would be able to come out safely because William, his dad, is also trans. By gender is under the trans umbrella, remember. This is why they're constantly drawing parallels to each other. They're both purple, they have the same voice actor, they look the same, it's all because they're both trans, just different flavours. It's all right there, in the text of the games. If you just read between the lines, it's all right there. Perhaps living in a homophobic and transphobic time is what caused Michael to take his frustrations out on the crying child. Boom. Michael Afton, trans, and gay. Okay, should be pretty fast from here on out. Elizabeth is honestly one of the straightest characters in the franchise. In the book, she flirts with Charlie's boyfriend, and it's not given a lot of focus. She's never shown to have any interest in women at all, to my knowledge. I thought Eleanor being a shapeshifter would get us somewhere, but no, she only shapeshifts into a woman. Also, her being born from the man in room 1280 implies she is William's agony, which kind of kills my theory that she was the agony from Elizabeth's death, but whatever, I guess. Despite her obviously looking like Circus Baby, but whatever, I guess mothers and daughters can look similar. I'll admit, Elizabeth stumped me for a while, until I realized the answer was right in front of my face, and behind Michael's. Ennard. Ennard is her collective, primarily led by Elizabeth's consciousness. Once she leaves, control goes to Funtime Freddy, and that's very obviously a huge change in personality, so we know Elizabeth is mainly the one in control of Ennard. Otherwise, he'd act way more like Morton Freddy. But he doesn't, so Ennard is mostly Elizabeth, at least in terms of personality. And yet, Ennard uses exclusively male pronouns. And that's substantial because he has Ballora, Baby, Funtime Foxy, who uses both, and then Funtime Freddy, and then technically Bon Bon, who is also a woman. He has way more women in him, since Funtime Foxy I honestly wouldn't count as either. Or you could count as both, either way, averages out. And because of that, Ennard, if anything, would have a lot of reason to use female pronouns, but no, he uses exclusively male pronouns. But she's not a trans man, because Elizabeth is clearly happy to go by female pronouns as Scrap Baby or Circus Baby, and in the books as Adult Charlie. Instead, Elizabeth Afton is clearly bi-gender, like mother, like daughter. As for the other Afton kid, I have gone into lengthy detail in my literal last video about how Crying Child is Glitchtrap. As Glitchtrap, he takes over Gregory, Vanessa, Cape Girl, Jeremy, and the Glamrocks. He appears to be perfectly happy in both male and female forms. Furthermore, he's a boy in FNAF 4, and there is the girl in the FNAF 4 bed in the endo daycare. Abby is also vaguely CC adjacent with the striped shirt and teddy bear in the first film, especially the first trailer, but honestly she lines up way better with Elizabeth than CC. Either way, CC is bi-gender, because he's Glitchtrap. They're all bi-gender except Mike, apparently. Now for the secret Afton child that took the name Emily, Charlotte Emily. In FNAF 2, the soul inside the puppet is clearly the one being referred to in Save Him. In Henry's speech in FNAF 6, we see Save Him used alongside the security puppet minigame, so they are definitely the same.
My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter.
She was male, and then she became female later on. Literally trans. Now for the couple that didn't get to be in the Afton Emily polycule extravaganza, the Murrays. Edwin is the moon, and Fiona is the sun. Hey, remember Alchemist's fantasy from earlier? FNAF clearly has alchemical inspirations. In alchemy, the sun represents the masculine powers, and the moon represents the feminine powers. Furthermore, Fiona, as M1, is perfectly happy to represent masculinely both as Dispatch throughout Secret of the Mimic, but also in Sister Location as Hand Unit, who she definitely is. They're in the same place, they have control over every system, she literally uses the same voice Hand Unit does. Hand Unit can do multiple Hand Unit can do multiple voices. And also Mexis is more masculine looking. So, her, sun, masculine, that all checks out, and therefore we can assume that Edwin, being the moon, makes him female. Clearly they both just simply never got around to transitioning. Trans, the both of them. As for their son, his soul is clearly the White Tiger, and the White Tiger is clearly connected to M2, as I have gone into great detail with in the past.
The show is written and performed by a single costumed writer, director, cameraman, puppeteer, producer.
That was the tiger.
Animated studio. Stop. You're not him. You're not. Stop sounding like him.
Let's lift from down here.
I'm sorry, M2. I lost my temper. I was always gonna fix you. Please, call for help. M2, respond. Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise.
Jesus.
Ask your mom if she's not busy.
Oh my gosh.
M2, help.
Oh, that's too bad. That's really too bad, Edwin.
The White Tiger has voice lines only M2 could have heard, and the White Tiger also makes robot noises.
I'm gonna try going left. Ooh! That did something, I opened a door. Oh, brother, please. Whatever this is, I want it. No.
Clearly, David is connected to M2 in some way. M2 is happy to mimic anything of any gender, so pangender. Easy. Now, how about the Secret of the Mimic's protagonist, Arnold? Well, one, he's an absolute submissive bottom, so probably gay, but also in the part of Moon.exe that simulates Arnold's journey through MCM, Mr. Helpful says he has been split in two, Sun and Moon. As we just talked about, Sun and Moon are masculine and feminine powers, so if he's both, then he must be bigender. Furthermore, we have a precedent for that, with William and Eleanor and Pit Bonnie being his masculine side's agony and his feminine side's agony, literally him being split in two. So they're both bigender, Sun and Moon, it's all there. It's all right there. Also, while I was writing this, She's Always Nervous posted a theory where Arnold was Tape Girl.
Tape Girl is Arnold.
She 100% meant this completely literally and wasn't talking about narrative parallels, trust me bro. So simply further evidence that he is either bigender or trans. See? It all comes together. It's all right there, plain as day in the games. It's called basic media literacy. Now, moving on to our earlier FNAF games, what about Phone Guy, or Ralph, or Phone Ralph as I think it's funny to call him? Well, he's gay. In the week before, he's talking about his local, definitely not William Afton, Dave from Maintenance, and specifically says he never pays for dinner. They've gone on a date. Gay. As for his daughter Capella is a Greek name, and the Greeks are incredibly gay. They have a huge number of gay or bi gods and heroes, and many Greek philosophers loved thinking about gay relationships and even describing gay relationships in other cultures. It's how we know the Celts were not homophobic. In fact, one source I found while researching homosexuality in Celtic cultures said that homosexuality was one of the few good things Aristotle and other Greek philosophers found good in what they otherwise considered a barbarian culture. The Greeks are so gay. In fact, I'm not even sure there's such thing as a straight Greek. I don't think there's ever even been a straight Greek person. I just don't think it's ever happened, not even the one time. Coppelia has a Greek name implying Greek ancestry, therefore she is gay.
Why are you gay?
My parents was Greek!
His parents was Greek.
Keeping with the FNAF 1 theme, the MCI. Gabriel as Freddy goes into the women's bathroom in FNAF 1. Trans. Also, maybe he's Gabriella and Into the Pit. It would explain how her uncle is also her grandfather, and this game has enough time travel and shape-shifting robots for it to be possible. Ghosts can mess with memories, so her being Chip's daughter is chill. If Chica can be Oswald's neighbor, Freddy can be Chip's daughter. Jeremy and Fritz. In UCN, they share Foxy's curtains. Gay. Furthermore, Foxy is the most gender-fluid animatronic.
Who the heck is that? Where's Bonnie? What they got? Wait. Also, why is Fox? Well, I guess Foxy's been a girl before. But Foxy's I guess Foxy's been white before. You know what? I don't have anything to say. Who's that?
And Fritz, while masculine the vast majority of the time, is technically a gender-neutral name. There's also the theory that the kids in FNAF 4 go on to be the core 4 in the MCI, a theory I am partial to, even if I do disagree that CC is the happiest day receiver. And Fritz would be the Pigtails girl in that theory. Plus, Return to the Pit has a drawing of a girl with pigtails, despite it not matching the cake receiver in that book, or the incredibly consistent depictions of Susie across every piece of media. However, he's also male in the books and movie. Fritz is gender fluid, so I guess Jeremy is only gay sometimes. Jeremy is pan. Fritz is gay and gender fluid. Based. Susie in the books is clearly shown to control Funtime Foxy. Funtime Foxy is bigender, therefore she is bigender. Finally, the Ventral Spirit. Their gender is a topic of much debate, as Cassidy is a gender-neutral name, and the Ventral Spirit's casting call for a voice actor said it shouldn't be immediately clear if it's a little boy or little girl, which some people take to mean Scott didn't want you to know their gender at all, even though immediately clear would actually imply that he just didn't want it to be incredibly obvious straight off the bat, but you would still eventually realize, but whatever, no, apparently it means he didn't want the gender to be known at all, but okay. The evidence for them being male is that the Golden Freddy soul is male in the books and movie, the Ventral Spirit parallel in Frights is male, and the Ventral Spirit in UCN is only ever referred to by male pronouns. The evidence for them being female is that the cake receiver in Return to the Pit is female, but not confirmed to be the Golden Freddy Spirit, so kind of irrelevant. The princess in Princess Quest being called Cassidy in the files, which, for one, there's enough parallels in death minigames and Candy Cat stories that might not even count. Also, it was removed later on, so again, irrelevant. In FNAF 1, when Golden Freddy appears, a stock sound effect of a little girl giggling plays, but it's a stock sound effect, so irrelevant. And this picture in the logbook, which has nothing to do with UCN, so again, completely irrelevant. So yeah, I'd call these pretty equal in terms of evidence by gender. Okay, now for Michael's friends and their kids. Chica Bully is MIA, so we won't cover him, but he's literally a guy wearing the mask of a female character and hanging out with gay and trans kids in the 80s. So probably a trans woman. But again, we can't know, we haven't met him yet. Oswald in Into the Pit is heavily implied to be Foxy, and the achievement for that ending implies he's a robot, and as we discussed earlier, Foxy is gender fluid, so Oswald is gender fluid. Plus, robots are gender fluid in general because you can switch their voice boxes and personality chips. Gender fluid Oswald. As for his dad, he's the Freddy Bully, so associated with bears. Bear is a gay term, but that's pretty weak. Well, in Into the Pit, if Oswald calls his mum's number in the past, then he gets the Eleanor minigame.
Great. Can we try calling Mom again?
Okay. I mean, we can. I feel like we've done it both in the past and on this day. But sure. What are we doing? We're doing the contact list is 1 to Mom. Hello?
Hello?
Oh.
Game?
Hello? Oh. I hit enter instead of select. Hello?
Yeah! Woo!
Hold up! Hold up!
And Eleanor's true form is a squirming dark mass of agony and tendrils. Marrying a squirming black mass of agony and tendrils seems like a pretty pan-coded thing to me. However, their son being a robot means no sex has likely occurred. Asexual pan-romantic. What about Cassie's dad? Well, he's the Bonnie Bully, and Bunny Boy is a gay term, but again, weak evidence. He has a daughter, so probably not gay. However, he's a VR protagonist, and you're supposed to stand up when you play VR, which implies that canonically he cannot sit properly. Bisexual. Plus, literally becomes the princess in Princess Quest 4. He's male, and then he plays Princess Quest 4, and the princess comes up to him, slashes him with a sword. They presumably fuse, because the princess sees... Oh, no. He goes down a rail, he kills the princess, but he now is the princess because he has the same teleportability and the sword, so I'm just going to assume they fuse. And then therefore he becomes the princess, and therefore he becomes female. He was male, and then he became female. Literally trans. I mean, it's just right there in the text of the games. I mean, the only reason more people don't see it is that they're media illiterate. I'm not making shit up from nothing. It's that they're not thinking critically. I'm better because I decide to pull bullshit meaning out of my ass while proclaiming myself more media literate and therefore more intelligent. As for his daughter, Cassie is also bi. If we look at this cutout of her on her birthday after doing her makeup with Roxy, she has all the colours of the bi flag. Blue, light purple to pinky colour, and purple. Literally bi. It couldn't be more spelled out for us. It's called environmental storytelling. God, learn to think critically. Speaking of VR protagonists, Vanessa. She has dyed hair and a cut email. She has daddy issues in the therapy tapes, and she seems completely uninterested in Lewis. I knew she was a lesbian. I mean, it was literally right in front of me. I just needed that smoking gun. So I looked to the therapy tapes. Her number is 71, and coincidentally, there is a study that says 71% of Americans support homosexuality. However, that's very weak evidence. I need something better. I need something good. I know this is true. I can prove it. I can prove it. It's just right there. I mean, look up any number in gay, and you'd probably find a study or some symbolism or something historically that links them. No, we need something better. And they're in the therapy tapes, and then I finally found it. I decided to look at her ink blot test answers. The first was a treehouse that didn't yield anything, but the next one was a beetle. She sees a beetle. In 1896, Henry Gadou de Caville published one of the first scientific illustrations of gay animals fucking, and it was, sure enough, beetles. Vanessa saw a beetle because she's gay. I mean, inkblot test, that's the whole point. You see something and it tells you about your personality. She saw a beetle because they were the first animals, or some of the first, illustrated fucking. Because she's gay. See? It's all right there. In the text of the game. If you just start with a conclusion and keep digging and keep digging and keep digging and you don't stop digging until you find something, you will eventually find evidence proving you right. That's called good theorizing and critical thinking. This is the problem with people these days. They don't even think about animals gay fucking while analyzing media. No wonder there's so much media illiteracy. Oh, also Gregory is patient 46, who's referred to exclusively with feminine gendered languages in translations of Security Breach into languages with gendered language. Such as, I believe the examples are German, Chinese, Italian, and Japanese? I believe. I memorized the 4 at some point. I think that's the 4. I'll have it on screen. But yeah, he's exclusively only ever translated with feminine gendered languages into languages that have gendered language like that. So yeah. Gregory, male, in the therapy tapes referred to as female. Trans. And with that, I have definitively, undeniably proven that every major human character in Five Nights at Freddy's is gay, or another part of the LGBTQ plus spectrum. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna go take a nap. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.